It's about time I quit talking about this old rototiller and actually get down to work and getting it going. In previous videos, I've used engines like this to get the original engine restored. I want to show that engine to you right now. This is the original engine that came off of the rototiller, and I took a few, or 2 or 3 Briggs & Stratton engines and took the parts off of them and put it in this engine, and I have videos showing how I went through that entire process. This engine runs pretty good, but I can't tweak it in until I get it back on the rototiller, and I can't put it back on the rototiller till I get that thing finished up. So today we're going to disassemble that old rototiller, at least to a certain point. First thing I'm going to do in the process of this, and that's what it's going to be, a process, is I'm going to take this shield off, I'm going to straighten it out, clean it up, and prime it. Let's see if we can't get it off. There's 2 bolts under here that are holding it, and the bolts or the nuts that are holding it are attached to a pin on this side right here, and I want to put a vice grip on it, and we will hold it and see if I can't get it loose. Yep, it's coming. Okay, that should get this side loose. Feels like it. Now let's do the other side. The bolt is attached to this pin right here. Put a vice grip on it. Get in here. The bolt, I keep saying bolt, I mean nut. Yep, there she comes. I'm not going to take that completely out yet. Now this should slip right off of there. Okay, what's holding it? Right there. Step 1, got this off. You can see it's bent. I'm going to straighten that out. We're going to clean the rust off of this. You can see the color. We're going to try to match that, but the first thing we're going to do is get the rust off of it the best I can, pound the dents out, and prime it. Take a look over here. You can see these spacers came off of here. We will try to remember where those go. And we've got a layer of grease on here. You can see this grease. That gives you an idea of what the base of this tiller was. It's kind of an orangey red color. We're not going to match that perfectly, but we will get it close. And that tells us what the colors were here. So we have a white engine. We kind of have a beige cover that went over this. And then we have kind of an orangey color here. And that would have been all this down here, and it even looks like, I can't tell on the handles yet, but we'll see. Okay, have a little trusty body hammer here. Let's see if that's going to be enough. That's helping some. Okay. Now we have that dent taken out. Now let's see if we can't get this straightened. Have some dents right here. Get those straightened up. Got one right here. Sight it. That helped it, but it's far from perfect. Got one really bad one right here. Well, this thing took a lot of abuse over the years, didn't it? Getting closer. When you got metal like this, probably not going to get it perfectly straight, but you can sure get it close. And that's what we're doing. Just getting it close. And if you have a flatter hammer like this, it's a lot better. But you don't have to have this kind of a hammer. Anything would work as long as you can get it in there. And what I've got this on is a big chunk of steel. You about have to have that if you want to get it halfway decent. Now to clean this up, if I had a sandblaster, that'd be perfect. But this old boy doesn't. So we're going to use the next best thing. A wood sander, wire brush, and anything else I can find. Let's see how that thing fits. It's about as good as I'm going to get it. Okay, let's just get her back in there. That was right there and like that. You know what? Yep, up there on them shims, looks, boy, that looks good. We're gonna leave it at that. That's good enough that that will go back together just fine without scratching it all up. Let's get it sanded down. This mask is a little bit of an overkill, but I don't want to be coughing up rusty rust for the next 3 or 4 days, so I'm putting it on so I don't breathe it in. Let's get to it. You can see how that's taking that stuff off. It's taking it right out. But you can also see as I'm creating quite a dust. I have this top cleaned up as good as I'm going to get it. I'm not a perfectionist, I'm a realist. I know that this isn't going to be perfect, but I also know it's going to look a lot better than it did. I want to show you the top of this. I've got most of the paint off, if not all of it. This was bent up pretty bad. I straightened it the best I could. This isn't a piece of body work on an automobile, so this is a rototiller. Just remember that. The paint I'm going to put this on this, since it's down to the bare metal, is this Rust-Oleum etching primer. I'm going to use it. You can get that on Amazon. You can go to my link and click on it in the description and you should find it there, along with the lacquer thinner that I use to wipe this all down with. Have this rag here. I'm just going to wipe it down one last time. We're not in a controlled environment in this shop. You can hear the heater kicking on. It blows up a little dust. But let's get this done. Let's take a look to see how this turned out. That's with the self-etching primer. it's ready for the second coat. And for that, I'm going to use a product that I picked up in the local hardware. Oh, I can't get the lid off. I got to go get the lid off. What I'm using is just a regular filler primer. You can get it a lot of different places. This isn't anything special. I'm just going to put a nice little coat on it, get it that tack coat, and then after that I will put a nice wet coat on it. And the reason I want to use the filler primer is I want to wet sand this just a little bit and see if I can get some of those hammer dings out that I put in from trying to straighten the metal. I'm not a perfectionist on this stuff by no sense of the word, but if I can, I try to make it look the best I can, especially what shows. The underneath side of this is, well, it's just that, the underneath side. And I use that that rust inhibitor primer that I get from Amazon on the underneath side, and it's drying. And now I can put a coat of this on there too. And you can see how fast this is drying, so I'm just going right back over it. It's turned out pretty good. We'll let that cure for a little while, and we'll see what a coat of finish looks like on it. I may need to let that set overnight though, we'll see. Well, got that all primed and it's dry. I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper. I'm going to just use, I got 1500 here, and I'm going to wet sand it. Now the way I do that, I usually take a piece of paper like this and fold it in thirds, tear it, and then use 1/3 at a time, but I'm just going to do it like this. I'm not going to use a block. If I was working on that old Bronco right here, when I did that, I used a block, did everything you're supposed to right, but on this, I'm just going to wet sand it. I have a little bit of water here in this old coffee can. I put a little soap in it to help it slide easier. Anyway, that's what a guy told me to do, and I believed him, so let's see how this sands. That water is just a little warm too. Now we're just going to sand that ever so lightly. I'm going to go get some 600 and see how that works. Here's a piece of 600. I'm going to fold it like this and use it in smaller. I'm going to dip it in my water. Oh yeah, I can feel the difference. Look at that. Went right down to the etching primer. I don't want to go through it because I do not want to put another coat of primer on this. I'll show you the back side of this here. I went ahead and put a coat of primer on it too. I wasn't nearly as particular about it. So, but we'll go ahead and sand that while I got it up here like this. And make it, at least pretend that I want to do a good job. That's something I don't do a lot of though. A lot of times what you see with me is what you see. Never been one to pretend to be somebody I'm not. I found that in the years of my life, it just worked a lot better for me. Maybe not for you, but authenticity goes a long way in this world. Look at that. See all that? I found a perfect color for this, and I went ahead and painted the underneath side. I'll show you that in a little bit, but I want to paint this so you can see it. The reason I painted the underneath side, I'm not used to using this Krylon paint. I went to local hardware to get it. And it goes on a lot different Rust-Oleum. It's not as forgiving, so you have to be a little bit more careful with the spray. You can't get it on too heavy, it runs easy. But let me see if I can't get this done so it looks half decent. The first coat is just basically a mist coat. I've been taught and learned over the years that if you put this coat on like this, just kind of mist it over and let that tack up. What that does for you is when you go to put a heavier coat on, it doesn't run as quickly. So we'll just let that set. It doesn't take long, that thin of a coat. And hopefully this can here will do both sides, but that matches the color of what this was originally. Well, I have the paint on here. It's tacky. I'm going to show you the other side though. You can see it. Turned out pretty good. This will dry kind of a matte color. That's what I wanted. Uh-oh. Now I'll have to touch that up. I knew I shouldn't have touched it. Anyway, there it is. We got her done. It's not perfect. You can see some of the dings and dents in it. But this will fit on there just like that. It'll look nice. What I have to do yet is obviously the rest of this and then get the motor mounted on. But I think what we'll do next is get these handles off and just probably disassemble this whole thing so that I got the parts and then I can clean them up as I need and reassemble. Maybe I might go for this part right here with the tires. That's going to take a little bit of time and effort. If you like my videos, I would suggest this one right here. It's a good one. Can it be fixed? Sure it can. Can you fix it? You're darn right you can. Until the next one.